Hey everyone, it's Mexi, and today I am actually excited to be sharing this with you. This is something that has been inspiring me a lot lately. What? Something inspirational on this channel? Something that doesn't make you just want to crawl into a hole and die? Something that isn't just bleak, grim critique of the dark, bitter, gruesome times we're in? Yeah, it's pretty weird for me too, but I am inspired despite the bleakness and the grimness of this present moment. We all saw the IPCC report that gives us about 12 years to turn around climate change to avoid catastrophe. Yay! We've already produced warming of 1 degree Celsius above pre-industrial levels. And the Paris Agreement, which Canada was super gung-ho for, was supposed to limit climate change to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by 2100. Well, guess what? Yeah, we're gonna reach that by 2040. Ooh, who could have seen that coming? Basically anyone who has studied this at all. But you know, that's great though. That's actually great because that'll coincide with the collapse of the global fisheries in 2050. So it'll all just come together, like full circle. Yeah. 1 degree is also a global average. So that means that certain places in the world are warming much faster than others. And the poles, north and south, and the Arctic, these regions are warming the fastest. And we've talked in previous videos about the albedo effect and how losing these ice sheets is actually a positive feedback loop that will make climate change self-perpetuating, and that, combined with many other similar feedback loops, are poised to make climate change a runaway train to Venus. Looks habitable, doesn't it? If anyone is interested in doing more of a deep dive into this report, let me know. I am always down to talk about exactly how our Earth systems are dying and what we should do about that. Hashtag go vegan, hashtag fuck capitalism. But anyway, while this is going on, we very predictably have world leaders and desperate, purposely misinformed masses doubling down and grasping at straws in order to support and cling to the very system that is driving our impending destruction. Bolsonaro winning in Brazil was a huge blow to workers and the struggle for change, and also to keeping our planet alive, since the Amazon rainforest is a crucially important carbon sink in these increasingly dystopian times. So what is the left doing during this decisive historical moment? Well, at best, we're talking with our comrades, making connections, trying to learn survival skills so that we can somehow weather this impending apocalypse together. At worst, or more often than not, we are yelling at each other over the minutiae of interpreting texts, or whether and to what extent certain individuals are in fact revisionists. I actually had someone tell me to stay away from the real communist left because I actually find post-structural theories politically useful. Wow, I am basically Obama. Turn this video off, tear me down, expunge me from the movement. As soon as you've purged nearly everyone, then maybe then you'll be able to get stuff done. For people who aren't spending their time and energy on this minutia and on splintering the movement further and further and further to boost up their own egos and show everyone how smart they are, I feel like the rest of us are actually just getting depressed, especially after this IPCC report came out. I feel like a lot of people are just feeling defeated and they're thinking, you know, well, yeah, we're still gonna fight, but they've already kind of conceded defeat. Or, you know, yeah, we're gonna fight, but all right, we're basically walking into the apocalypse right now, and if any of us can survive, that's a big win. And that's just not a very pleasurable place to be. And if we want to get other people excited and energized about our movement and about joining and walking with us, then we actually kind of have to believe that this is a good place to be and actually be somewhat excited about our prospects. So today's video is inspired by the wonderful Adrienne Marie Brown and her book Emergent Strategy. Maureen and I actually did a podcast about this, so check that out if you're interested. We do more of a deep dive into the book. But today I want to talk about bringing strategy into the 21st century, about reclaiming the creativity and excitement that has been systematically robbed from us, about learning to ask more productive questions of ourselves and of others, and about building critical connections over critical mass. And I am also going to provide some challenging exercises for you to try at home to work on reclaiming your radical creativity. So critical connections over critical mass. What I mean by that is very often we focus just on filling a room full of bodies, but not on the quality of connectedness and relationships of the people within that room. Often we'll fill a room with a lot of people who have read Marx or Kropotkin or whoever, but who are actually very shitty to one another, very shitty, and who aren't otherwise connected and who aren't really building deep, real relationships of trust. And social transformation, like real, full, thorough social transformation, is not just gathering critical mass. If we're not fully connected to one another and fully trusting of one another, then we're just this floating blob. And yes, we might have ideological similarities. We might all agree on what the enemy is. We might all agree on what we hate and what we're moving away from. But if we're not dreaming together of some visionary destination, then we're not actually marching together towards something. And we're in a constant state of reaction. And I really don't want to paint with broad strokes here. I know there are a ton of folks doing incredible work, and anyone who is doing any work for the cause to move past capitalism, I applaud you. I am grateful for you. But certainly there are a lot of people within this movement, there are a lot of groups within this movement who really do focus on this one right way, one right strategy, implying that you already know it. The right way for the Russian Revolution was the right way for the Russian Revolution in 1917. The right way for Catalonia was the right way for Catalonia. The right way for Rojava was the right way for Rojava. The right way for Cuba was the right way for Cuba. The right way for Toronto, Ontario in 2018 is question mark. That's us, right? We are actually the adults now. Yeah, I know. We are the adults now. So we need to be the visionaries of this future. And we don't know the right strategy. We don't know the one answer. And certainly there can't just be one. So I think what we really need on the left more than anything, especially on the online left, is humility. We need to have the humility to understand that everyone can be my teacher. So I guess what I'm saying here is twofold. First is that social transformation is as much about transforming ourselves and humbling ourselves and transforming the way that we relate to others and build relationships of trust with others as it is about just building critical mass. And number two, we can't and we won't be replicating systems from the past. It's impossible. The material conditions have changed drastically. And I know everyone knows this, but I still feel as though many of our discussions and our creativity is stuck in the past. With only 12 years to turn around climate change, we cannot and we will not be replicating industrial socialism. So what does a post-industrial socialism look like? What does a truly sustainable communism look like? How are we going to learn to live not only with each other, but also with all of the other species in all of the ecosystems of which we form part? How are we going to rediscover how we even belong and fit within these ecosystems and how we can form part of a self-sustaining metabolism of life? These are the kind of questions that we need to think about. We have our heroes from the past, they have gotten us this far and we salute them, but these are the things that we need to theorize about. We're the adults now. And that fact doesn't have to be debilitating either. I mean, I think if you ask most leftists right now, okay, you're against capitalism, so what else is there? What are we gonna do? Most people will answer something like, well, that's not up to one person to decide. You know, we can't have a blueprint, but if enough of us come together and destroy capitalism, then surely we'll figure something out afterwards. And people are scared. People that doesn't energize people. People are like, oh, really? You have no plan? That sounds good. And I am not saying that we should have a blueprint at all. I am not saying that. I am someone who falls into that camp of that is how I respond when someone asks me that question. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't dream it. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be actively dreaming and creatively envisioning the future together. So Adrian says, we are living now inside the imagination of people who thought economic disparity and environmental destruction were acceptable costs for their power. Imagination has people thinking they can go from poor to a millionaire as part of a shared American dream. Imagination gives us borders, gives us superiority, gives us race as an indicator of capability. I often feel I am trapped inside of someone else's imagination, and I must engage my own imagination to break free. Losing our imagination is a symptom of trauma. Reclaiming the right to dream the future and strengthening the muscle to imagine together is a revolutionary activity. So I think we really need to strengthen these creative muscles again. I mean, even when I was a kid, I was so much more creative than I am now. My thinking now is linear and it's very just focused on critique. It's not focused on visionary futures. So on the advice of Adrian and others, I have now finally, after about 12 years of reading nothing but theory and nonfiction, I have now finally begun to read fiction. I started with Octavia Butler, and now I'm digging into Ursula Le Guin, learning from geniuses engaged in the work of visionary fiction and visioning the future. Actually, there was a few short stories in Adrian's book, Octavia's Brood, that were so wonderful. I actually would love to do a dramatic reading for you all of a few of them. One of them in particular it's very much in the vein of the exercises that I'm going to suggest that people do. It's a story that's written from the future, from the vantage point of this communist utopia, and they're looking back through the archaeological record and through different documents, trying to figure out what led to the crash of that society and the revolution and how they built this totally new world. And so in the midst of that story, you get glimpses of, the past, the way that things are now, and then this future moment where they've recreated something magical, and it's really inspiring. So some of the exercises I want to encourage people to do to try and reclaim their own creativity and practice visioning the future. Number one is something that me and Maureen are going to do on our podcast, actually, so I will share that if people are interested. But it is try to think of a series of headlines from the future. So think of if in the future, the world that you want to see actually came about, what kind of headlines would you expect to read in the newspapers or in blogs or whatever? And at first glance, that might sound really simplistic, but if you think about it, it's actually incredibly challenging, because in order to come up with the headlines, you actually have to form something in your mind of what that society would actually look like. What are people actually doing on the ground? How are people actually relating to each other? How are things getting done? What is getting done? What's not getting done? And where are people living? Do we still have cities? And if so, how are we growing food in the cities? Are we doing vertical farming? Have we let nature reclaim a lot of the cities so they look differently than they do today? What remnants of the past do we want to carry forward into the future? What do we not? These are all things that I don't think many of us really think about. I mean, we think very vaguely about it. We have some general idea, and we're kind of basing that on other systems that we've seen work in the past, but I don't think a lot of us really spend time thinking and visioning the future that we want to see in any kind of detailed way. Another one in a similar vein is to write letters from your future self to your current self. Again, if the world you want to see actually came about. And maybe the post-capitalist futures you think about are flawed and there's a lot of issues and people are trying to work them out, and fine, put that in there and think about how people would actually work those things out, right? I just think it's so important that we're actually practicing reclaiming our creativity, practicing visioning that future so that we have something that we're walking towards and that we're excited about. I mean, creativity has been so co-opted under capitalism. Creativity is Silicon Valley making smaller and smaller phones, or completely dystopian sunglasses that you wear and you can see your freaking phone and everything, and you can scan people's faces. I mean, this is horrifying. But that's creativity, that's innovation, synergy. Creativity right now is just how to create the maximum amount of decadent, useless crap that the market will actually bear. But I think it is so vitally important to reclaim creativity for revolutionary purposes. And this is the time to do it. We got 12 years. We're going to have to get creative, folks. We're the adults. And bringing it full circle, in order to do this, we really do need to focus on critical connections. Having just a critical mass of depressed, cynical, defeated people who treat each other like complete shit, but who have red marks, are not going to be equipped to do this kind of visionary world building. Another Adrian gem is that we should move at the speed of trust. If we don't know each other, then we cannot trust each other. And if we're driven by ego, then we will also not be able to trust others. And we also won't be trustworthy ourselves. So we're going to have to start learning these skills. We're going to have to start learning humility and selflessness and radical generosity and radical honesty. And instead of asking ourselves these huge immobilizing questions like, how do we end capitalism and what comes next? Maybe we can get creative about the questions that we're asking ourselves and how we think about social change. So how do we shift into a culture in which ego and greed don't dominate? And how do we make those transformations in ourselves? And how do we learn to genuinely share with one another and support each other and take care of one another? And how can we start building those networks now? So my plea to the left right now is to be humbled by the task ahead of us without letting it immobilize us or lead us to concede defeat. Be humbled by one another and all that we can learn from each other. Even if you think that you're the king of theory and that everyone else is a revisionist, there is something that you need to learn and everyone can be your teacher, except like PragerU. And work on making connections that are miles deep and inches or miles wide instead of just miles wide and inches deep. Hold on. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. And flex your creative muscle as much as possible. Read fiction, envision the world you want to see, and have something inspirational that you want to walk towards so that you can be excited and excite others to join this movement. Make this movement pleasurable again. And if none of this inspires you at all, then just don't be a dick. You don't know everything, and we need all hands on deck right now. These may not be the comrades you want, but by God, they're the comrades you've got. Special thanks to my patrons, and I have a lot of shout outs to do this week. Thank you Kareem El Hayawan, Evie Rosk, Leo Nito, Confused, Lawson, Thomas McCallum, Peter Bond, Free Live Free, Richard Layton, Sabbath Kitty, Alex MK, Allison Doak, Charlotte Wolf, Kian, Zeber, Graka Grunk, Francis Fish, and Daniel Jin. If you have the means to support the show, becoming a monthly patron really goes a long way, or you can toss me a one-time donation via PayPal. Check out my podcast at veganvanguardpodcast.com. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video.